Ever cram for a test? Like you're just trying to memorize a bunch of facts and hoping they stick?
Yeah.
You ace the test, but then like a week later, poof, gone.
Yeah, rote memorization. We've all been there.
It's the worst. But today's deep dive is all about how we can, escape that trap. Like how can we actually rewire our brains to learn different?
And that's where Bloom's taxonomy comes in.
Okay, Bloom's taxonomy.
Yeah, and it's not some dusty old educational theory either.
Right.
Think of it more as a treasure map, It helps guide us away from just knowing stuff to actually understanding it and using it.
Ooh, I like that. A treasure map. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm listening. So our main guide today is this PDF, right? And it's called Bloom's Taxonomy, and it's significance in classifying learning objectives by cognitive complexity.
Yeah.
So no more surface-level learning. What does Bloom's Taxonomy actually have to say about how we learn?
So imagine a staircase. Each step on the staircase, it represents a much deeper level of understanding. And so you start with just basic recall at the bottom, and then you have to climb this staircase toward more complex thinking.
Okay.
That's basically Bloom's taxonomy in a nutshell. It's all about recognizing that there are these different levels of actually engaging with information.
So it's not enough to just know something.
Right.
What are some of the stairs that we're climbing here?
Well, the original Bloom's taxonomy, it's from way back in 1956.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it outlined 6 key levels: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation.
Okay, so those are the stairs.
Yeah, and this framework really gave educators a common language to discuss learning goals.
But like any good concept, it needed an upgrade.
Right, exactly. So fast forward to 2001.
Okay.
A group of cognitive psychologists who were led by Lorin and David Krathwohl, they revamped Bloom's taxonomy for the 21st century.
Love a good revamp.
Yeah, they really wanted to emphasize the active role that learners play in the process,
Okay, so let's unpack this makeover a little bit. What exactly changed?
So instead of using nouns, they started using verbs. This helped shift the focus away from just static knowledge and toward the actions that we take at each level.
Okay.
So knowledge became remembering, comprehension became understanding. Subtle, but these tweaks make a world of difference.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like the difference between knowing a recipe and actually cooking the dish, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about actively engaging with the information, not just passively absorbing it.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. It's like you're really getting your hands dirty.
Yeah.
You're not just reading about it in a textbook.
Right. Show me how this works in real life. Give me an example.
Okay, well, our source PDF actually gives this great example. Let's say you're back in biology class and you're learning about photosynthesis.
Okay. Photosynthesis, flashbacks to high school, plants and sunlight. And wasn't there a chemical equation involved too?
There is, but at the remembering level, you're just recalling that definition of photosynthesis, what it is. But then moving up to understanding, you would explain that process in your own words.
Gotcha.
You might even draw a diagram or something.
Okay, so you're not just parroting back the information someone else told you. You're showing that you actually get it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, let's say you're gardening and your plants aren't doing so hot. You have to use your knowledge of photosynthesis to troubleshoot, to figure out why those plants are struggling.
Okay.
That's the applying level. You're using what you know to solve an actual problem.
And this is making me realize how often we probably use these higher level thinking skills without even realizing it. Okay, what about those top tiers? Analyzing, evaluating, and creating.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting. At the analyzing level, you might compare and contrast photosynthesis with something like cellular respiration.
Okay.
Kind of two sides of the same coin when it comes to plants.
So breaking things down and finding the connections between them.
Yes.
Okay.
And then evaluating that could involve something like debating the ethics of using genetically modified plants to boost photosynthesis.
Oh, wow.
Do the benefits outweigh the potential risks? You're making these informed judgments.
Things just got philosophical.
Okay.
Okay, what about the final level, creating? What does that look like?
So imagine you're designing an experiment to test a new hypothesis about photosynthesis, or even inventing some new device that mimics the process for renewable energy.
Oh, wow.
It's about pushing the boundaries and generating something totally new.
That's incredible. But this all sounds very sciencey. Does Bloom's taxonomy apply to other areas of learning too? What about learning a new language or a musical instrument?
Absolutely. Think about learning a new language. At the remembering level, you're just memorizing vocabulary words. But understanding involves grasping the grammar rules and how they all fit together.
Oh.
And then applying that is actually forming sentences.
Makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And then analyzing could be comparing your native language's structure to that new language that you're trying to learn.
Oh, it's interesting.
Right. And then evaluating might involve assessing the effectiveness of different language learning methods, like what's working for you and what isn't. And then creating that could be anything from writing a poem to even composing a song in that new language.
Wow.
So you can see Bloom's taxonomy really provides this framework for learning in like any domain.
Yeah, it's like Bloom's taxonomy gives you this this mental toolkit,
Yeah.
to tackle any learning challenge. Our source PDF also mentions that this framework is really valuable for teachers.
Yeah, it can be a really powerful tool for lesson planning.
Okay.
So imagine you're a teacher and you're putting together a lesson plan. Instead of just standing up there and lecturing about photosynthesis,
Right.
you could design activities that actually target each level of Bloom's taxonomy.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. So you might start with a quick quiz to test recall,
Well,
and then have students explain the process in their own words. And then maybe do like a group problem-solving activity, something like
now
that.
you're actively guiding students up those stairs of understanding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here's something interesting from the research. Studies have shown that when teachers actually incorporate Bloom's taxonomy into their lesson plans, students are more engaged
Interesting.
and they perform better on assessments.
Wow. So it's not just a theory. It actually, works.
Exactly.
Okay, but our deep dive wouldn't be complete if we didn't address the elephant in the room. No framework is perfect. So what are some of the limitations of Bloom's taxonomy?
That's a great point. I think one criticism is that while that staircase analogy is really helpful, it can sometimes make learning seem overly linear,
Yeah.
when in reality, we jump between levels all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
We revisit earlier stages as we grapple with new information.
Totally. It's like that saying, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Exactly. Another critique is that Bloom's taxonomy, it's really fantastic for those cognitive skills, but it doesn't really address other vital aspects of learning, like emotional intelligence or physical skills.
Right. You could be, brilliant at analyzing poetry, but you struggle to collaborate with others on a team project.
Exactly.
So it's not the be-all and end-all. It's more like a powerful tool in a larger learning toolkit.
That's a great way to put it.
Awesome. Well, this has been really eye-opening. So as we're wrapping up our deep dive into Bloom's taxonomy, what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
I think the biggest thing is to think of Bloom's taxonomy as this mental springboard.
Okay.
Don't just settle for remembering information. Really strive to understand it, apply it, analyze it, evaluate it, and create something new with it. And remember, while Bloom's provides this valuable framework, it's important to keep exploring those other dimensions of learning too.
Right.
The emotional, the social, the physical, all of that. Those are all really important.
Yeah. Those are the things that make life interesting. Awesome. Well, that is such a powerful thought. It's not just about what we know, it's about who we become in the process. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the heart of Bloom's taxonomy. Until next time, keep those brains engaged and those aha moments coming.